I, 42M, have been married to my wife Pamela, 39F, for 6 years. We each have a child from previous relationships, my daughter Dorothy, 17F, and her son Ethan, 19M. I've always been laser-focused on saving for Dorothy's future. My own parents struggled financially when I was growing up, and I vowed to give my child a better start in life. When Dorothy was born, I was just 25 and working an entry-level job. Her mother, Jessica, and I weren't married, and our relationship was rocky. Despite the challenges, I opened a college savings account for Dorothy when she was just a month old. Those early years were tough. Jessica and I split up when Dorothy was 2, and I became a full-time single dad. I worked long hours at my main job and picked up weekend shifts bartending to make ends meet. Every month, no matter how tight money was, I put something into Dorothy's college fund. Sometimes it was only $20, but I was determined to keep it growing. As Dorothy got older, I explained to her why I was working so much. I wanted her to understand the value of education and planning for the future. We'd sit at the kitchen table counting the coins from my tip jar to add to her fund. It became our special ritual. By the time I met Pamela, when Dorothy was 11, there was a substantial amount saved up. Pamela was impressed by my financial discipline. She told me about her own struggles with money. Her ex-husband had racked up a lot of debt in her name, leaving her in a precarious position when they divorced. Because of this, Pamela was wary of combining finances. We agreed to keep our money separate, which worked well for us. Pamela's son, Ethan, was 13 when we got married. He's a good kid, but we've never quite clicked the way I'd hoped. He has a close relationship with his dad, who he sees every other weekend. I've always felt more like a friendly uncle to Ethan than a stepfather. Still, I've tried to be supportive and include him in family activities. Over the years, I noticed that Pamela wasn't really saving for Ethan's future. She makes good money as a real estate agent, but she tends to spend it on designer clothes, fancy vacations, and redecorating the house. I gently suggested a few times that she might want to start a college fund for Ethan, but she always brushed it off, saying there was plenty of time. Dorothy is graduating high school next year and starting to look at colleges. She's always been an exceptional student, taking AP classes, involved in multiple extracurriculars, and volunteering at the local animal shelter. Her hard work has paid off, and she's been accepted to several prestigious universities. Last week, I sat down with Dorothy to go over her college fund. I wanted her to understand exactly what resources she had available as she made her decision. When I showed her the balance, her eyes went wide. "Dad, is this real?" she asked. I nodded, feeling a surge of pride. There's enough to cover tuition and most living expenses at her top choice school for all 4 years. Dorothy threw her arms around me, crying happy tears. "I can't believe you did this for me," she said. I got choked up too, remembering all those years of scrimping and saving. "You're worth every penny," I told her. That evening, I mentioned the conversation to Pamela over dinner. I was still riding high on Dorothy's excitement and wanted to share the moment, but Pamela's reaction caught me completely off guard. She got quiet for a moment, then said, "What about Ethan? How is he supposed to pay for college?" I was confused. "I thought you were handling Ethan's college plans," I said. Pamela shook her head. "I haven't really saved anything," she admitted. "I always thought we'd figure something out when the time came." Then she dropped a bombshell. "We should split Dorothy's fund between both kids," she said. "It's only fair." I was stunned. "That money is for Dorothy," I said firmly. "I've been saving it for her since before I even met you and Ethan." Pamela's eyes flashed with anger. "So you're saying you don't consider Ethan to be your child too? We're supposed to be a family?" I tried to explain that it wasn't about loving Ethan less, but about honoring a commitment I'd made to Dorothy long ago. Pamela wasn't hearing it. She accused me of favoritism and said I was setting Ethan up for failure by denying him equal support. The argument escalated quickly. Pamela brought up every time she felt I'd treated Dorothy differently than Ethan, while I countered with examples of how I've tried to be a good stepfather. We went round and round until Ethan came home and heard us shouting. When he realized what we were fighting about, Ethan got upset too. He said he always suspected I didn't really consider him family, and this proved it. I tried to explain, but he stormed off to his room. Dorothy overheard some of the argument as well. Later, she came to me in tears, offering to split her fund with Ethan. It broke my heart to see her willing to sacrifice her dreams out of guilt. I assured her that none of this was her fault and that the money was hers. Period. Things have been incredibly tense at home since then. Pamela is giving me the cold shoulder and making snide comments about my real family. Ethan is avoiding me completely. Dorothy is walking on eggshells, clearly stressed by the whole situation. Pamela insists that I need to make this right by agreeing to split the money. But I don't see how taking away half of Dorothy's future to give to Ethan is the right thing to do. This fund represents 17 years of sacrifice and planning. It feels wrong to just hand half of it over, especially when Pamela had the same opportunity to save, but chose not to. I suggested we look into other options for Ethan. Scholarships, financial aid, maybe starting at community college. Pamela says that's not good enough, and accused me of trying to give Ethan lesser opportunities. I love Ethan, I really do, but I came into his life when he was already a teenager. I see my role as more of a mentor than a dad. He has a father who he's close with. I'm not trying to replace anyone. It's worth noting that Ethan is an average student and hasn't shown much interest in college. He's talked about maybe going to trade school to become an electrician. I think that's a great path, and I'd be happy to support him in that. But Pamela is insistent that he needs a 4-year degree, even though Ethan himself seems unsure. I feel like I'm being painted as the bad guy for not wanting to jeopardize my daughter's future that I've worked so hard to secure. But maybe I'm not seeing this clearly. The whole situation has me questioning everything. AETA for refusing to split the college fund. Update 1. It's been about a month since my original post, and unfortunately, things have only gotten worse. I really appreciate all the feedback and support from everyone. It's given me a lot to think about. The tension at home continued to build after my last post. Pamela and I were barely speaking, just coldly coexisting in the same space. Ethan was clearly upset and started avoiding me completely. Dorothy was stressed out, and I could tell she felt caught in the middle, trying to keep the peace. I tried to have a calm discussion with Pamela about Ethan's future plans and how we could support him without touching Dorothy's fund. But every conversation quickly devolved into accusations and rehashing old arguments. Pamela kept bringing up times she felt I'd favored Dorothy, while I pointed out all the ways I've tried to be there for Ethan. We were just talking in circles. Things came to a head last week. I came home from work early, hoping to catch Dorothy before her shift at the animal shelter. Instead, I found Pamela and Ethan sitting at the kitchen table with a bunch of papers spread out. When they saw me, they both jumped like they'd been caught doing something wrong. It turns out, my instincts were right. They had gone behind my back and applied for several credit cards and personal loans in my name, using my personal information. Their plan was to use this money to fund Ethan's education since I refused to help. I was absolutely angry. Not only was this a huge breach of trust, but it could have seriously damaged my credit and financial future. I confronted them immediately. Pamela tried to justify it, saying desperate times call for desperate measures, and that I had forced her hand by being selfish. Ethan looked ashamed but didn't say much. I told Pamela this was completely unacceptable and possibly illegal. I made it clear I would be canceling all the cards and loans immediately. Then I told her I needed some time to think and left to stay with my brother for a few days. While I was gone, I did a lot of soul searching. I thought back to the early days of my relationship with Pamela. We'd bonded over our experiences as single parents and our determination to give our kids better lives. I remembered how impressed I'd been by her independence and how she'd overcome her financial troubles after her divorce. But I also realized that there had been red flags I'd ignored. Pamela had always been a bit impulsive with money, justifying expensive purchases as treating herself after years of struggle. She'd make comments about how Dorothy was lucky to have her college taken care of, but never took steps to save for Ethan. I thought about my relationship with Ethan over the years. I genuinely care about him, but I realized I had been trying to force a father-son bond that just wasn't there. He already has a dad who he's close with. My attempts to be a father figure were probably confusing for him and created unrealistic expectations. After a few days, I returned home and asked Pamela for a private conversation. I told her that her actions were a deal breaker for me and that I wanted a divorce. She burst into tears and begged me to reconsider, saying she only did it because she was desperate to help her son. But I held firm. I explained that this wasn't just about the credit card incident. It was about a pattern of behavior, disrespecting my boundaries, trying to guilt me into things, and now potentially committing fraud. I told her I couldn't stay in a relationship where there was no trust. Pamela's reaction swung from pleading to anger. She accused me of never really accepting Ethan, of always putting Dorothy first. She said I was throwing away our marriage over money. But to me, it wasn't about the money. It was about the breach of trust and the realization that we had very different values when it came to family and finances. After our conversation, I sat down with Dorothy and Ethan separately to explain the situation. Dorothy was upset, but said she understood. She admitted that she had been uncomfortable with Pamela's behavior for a while, but hadn't wanted to cause problems. I assured her that none of this was her fault and that her college fund was safe. My conversation with Ethan was harder. He apologized for his part in the credit card scheme and admitted he had felt pressured by his mom to go along with it. We had an honest talk about his future plans. It turns out he's really interested in becoming an electrician, but felt pushed towards a 4-year college by his mom. I told him I thought trade school was a great option and offered to help him research programs. So now I'm in the process of separating from Pamela. I'm staying with my brother for now, while we sort out the logistics. Dorothy will be coming with me, of course. I've assured Ethan that even though his mom and I are splitting up, I still care about him and want to maintain a relationship if he's open to it. It's been a difficult and emotional time for everyone involved. I'm trying to take things one day at a time and focus on being there for both kids as we navigate this new reality. I know there will be challenges ahead, but I'm cautiously optimistic that this is the right decision for everyone in the long run. Update 2. It's been about 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some developments. The divorce from Pamela was finalized last month. It was a difficult process, but ultimately I think it was for the best. During the divorce proceedings, I learned that Pamela had been hiding some significant debt. It turns out her lavish spending habits had caught up with her, and she was in pretty severe financial straits. This shed some light on why she was so desperate to get her hands on Dorothy's college fund. I'm relieved I stood my ground and protected that money. The revelation about Pamela's debt brought back memories of my own parents' financial struggles. I remembered the constant stress in our household, the arguments over bills, the shame of having our electricity cut off more than once. It reinforced for me why I had been so determined to create financial stability for Dorothy. Dorothy has started her freshman year at her dream school. She's studying marine biology and absolutely loving it. She calls me every Sunday to share stories about her classes, her new friends, and her part-time job at the campus aquarium. Hearing the excitement in her voice makes all the years of saving and recent drama worth it. There have been some bumps in the road. She had a hard time adjusting to her roommate at first, and she's finding her biology classes more challenging than expected. But she's facing these obstacles with determination and a positive attitude. I'm incredibly proud of her resilience. As for Ethan, our relationship has actually improved since the divorce. Without the pressure of trying to force a father-son dynamic, we've developed a more natural mentor-mentee rapport. He's been working full-time at a local garage and taking some classes at community college. Ethan and I have been meeting up every couple of weeks for lunch. He's opening up to me more about his hopes and fears for the future. I've been helping him budget and save money, and he seems to really appreciate the guidance. We've been researching electrician apprenticeship programs together, and he's getting excited about the possibilities. Pamela has been struggling since the divorce. She had to downsize significantly and take on a second job to manage her debt. She's tried reaching out to me a few times, alternating between apologies and accusations. I've maintained firm boundaries and only communicate with her when absolutely necessary regarding divorce matters. There was a difficult moment last month when Pamela showed up at my new apartment unannounced, clearly intoxicated. She was crying and begging me to take her back, saying she'd realized her mistakes. It was hard to see her in that state, but I stood firm and called her sister to come pick her up. I hope she gets the help she needs for Ethan's sake, if nothing else. I've started dating again recently. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice to put myself out there. I met a woman named Rachel at a local book club. We've been on a few casual dates and enjoy each other's company. I'm being very cautious this time around, especially when it comes to blending families. Dorothy is my priority, and I won't let anyone compromise her well-being or future again. Speaking of Dorothy, she and Ethan have maintained a friendly relationship despite everything that happened. They text occasionally and even met up for coffee when Dorothy was home for fall break. It warms my heart to see them supporting each other. Overall, life has settled into a new normal. It's not always easy. There are still moments of tension and sadness, but I feel like I'm on the right path. I'm focused on being the best dad I can be to Dorothy and a supportive friend to Ethan. I'm also working on rebuilding my own life post-divorce, rediscovering old hobbies, and making new friends. The whole experience has really driven home the importance of open communication and shared values in a relationship. It's also reinforced my belief in the power of planning for the future and sticking to your principles, even when it's difficult. As I watch Dorothy thrive in college, I'm grateful that I trusted my instincts and protected her future.